Hello, my name is Amanda, and today I'm going to be doing my January wrap-up of all the books that I've read in January 2021. I read a total of 20 books in January, which is the best I've done in years and years. 10 of those were novels, 9 were graphic novels, and 1 was poetry. And my cat wants to say hello. Hello, everyone. Okay. The first book that I read was Sadie by Courtney Summers, and I loved this book. I read it partially through audiobook and ebook, and it was an amazing thriller. It was so suspenseful. I just wanted to know what happened next throughout the entire thing. I was a little disappointed at the ending because it was ambiguous, but overall I would definitely recommend it. It's about a young girl who goes missing, and this man who runs a podcast who is trying to solve the mystery of her while giving this podcast about her disappearance and the case. And I gave that a 4.25 out of 5. Next, I had a book club with friends, and we read Frankly in Love by David Yoon. And we read some of this in December, but we finished it in January. We met 4 times in total. It was fun. It was easy to read. I read each 100-page section in one sitting. I was kind of confused what was the point of the book. I was a little unsatisfied. It did make me cry at the end, but not really sure if I would recommend it. I gave that a 3 out of 5 stars. Next, I read Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. This used to be so popular on Goodreads, and I finally got around to it, and I don't understand the hype. Like, I read it really quickly, and it was like your fun, average rom-com, but it literally felt like the first rom-com to ever exist because all the characters were super bland, your average tropes, and it was so cheesy, and I predicted every single thing, and it was infuriating because the romance didn't happen until the end. So I only gave this a 2.25 out of 5. Next, I borrowed Lola and the Boy Next Door from a friend. I decided to continue on with this trilogy by Stephanie Perkins, even though I didn't like Anna and the French Kiss, because I heard that Isla, which I'll get to in a second, is the best one. I liked this a little bit more than Anna because the characters were more interesting, but still I predicted everything, and it took a really long time for the actual romance to happen, which again was super infuriating. I gave this one a 2.5 out of 5. Next, I read Isla and the Happily Ever After, the final book in this kind of companion trilogy. You don't have to read them in order for it to make sense. You could read this one as a standalone and it would make sense. But I actually enjoyed this one, which I was shocked about because I didn't really enjoy the first 2, but this one was actually good. I liked the characters. The romance happened pretty much immediately, which was great. And the main conflict wasn't a love triangle, which I was sick of. And the characters' dialogue was like funny, and I could see myself saying some of those things, and it seemed realistic. So I really enjoyed this one. It was super cute, fun. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I read Rebel by Marie Lu. I read this with my 2 friends who we are in a mini book club, and we read the whole Legend trilogy that this is the 4th book of. We read it a while back. This one was published like 6 years after the 3rd one in the Legend trilogy, and I honestly think it was super unnecessary. It was so boring. We struggled to get through this, and we did a 24-hour readathon for this, so we read like 100 pages in the month of January beforehand, and then we finished it on that 24-hour readathon day. But I just didn't want to keep reading it. It was just so boring. It kept recalling past events. The description of the settings and the actions were so confusing, and they weren't written in a way that you could visualize it, so it wasn't a great reading experience. I gave this a 1.5 out of 5. Then I finished the readathon with When I Grow Up, I Want to Be a List of Further Possibilities by Chen Chen, and this is the poetry collection. Almost every single poem is about his experience as being a queer man or the son of immigrants from China. I got this senior year from my English teacher, and I actually did not enjoy that much. I felt like the poems were too personal to the author for me to completely understand, or maybe I'm just dumb, but it just felt like he was using a random word generator and then making poems out of completely different topics and words. So I gave this a 2 out of 5 stars. Next, I read The Storyteller by Jodi Picoult. I used to read a lot of Jodi Picoult. and really enjoyed her. But this one I didn't enjoy that much. I really like her writing style. It's sophisticated but very easy to read. This is an adult novel about a young adult whose grandmother is a Holocaust survivor, and we get her story as a frame story in the middle. And then there's also a man that she meets who used to be a Nazi, and he is asking her for forgiveness because he knows that she is Jewish. And that just does not sit right with me. You can't just ask someone for forgiveness for all these crimes that you have committed simply because they are of the same religion of the people that you committed the crimes against. And what made me even more angry was the fact that the protagonist was considering forgiving him. Like, no, you can't. That's like, he brutally murdered Jewish people in the most cruel way possible. So forgiving him should not even have been the conflict, which was the entire premise of the novel. But I did mark 4 quotes that I really liked in this book. So it does have some good lines. Again, I really liked the writing. I gave this a 2.85 out of 5. Next, I read With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. I read The Poet X by her a couple of years ago and really loved that one. This one is written in prose, unlike The Poet X, which is written in poetry verse. I still really enjoyed this. Not quite as much, but I still really enjoyed it. It was about a teen mom who is in high school and has a 2-year-old daughter, and she loves the culinary arts, and she's taking her first culinary arts class at school. And you know, it's just about her as a student navigating her life as a teen mom and her interest in wanting to become a cook one day. I wish we had gotten more about her feelings around keeping the baby, about that decision, and her feelings about being a mom. We didn't get that intimate look into her mind about that. We got more about, you know, other people's reactions to it. It just seemed like such a big part of the premise that I had expected more about it. So I gave that one a 3.75, and I also listened to that by audiobook partially, and partially read the physical, as I did with you know, most books this month. And the audiobook is narrated by the author herself, so that was really cool. Next, I read the entire Paper Girls graphic novel series, and I only own the first one, and then my friend lent me the next 5, so there are a total of 6 of these, and I absolutely loved these. I gave them all either 5 or 4 stars. My friend Delaney told me that they gave her Stranger Things vibes, which I totally agree with. It's a time travel story about these 4 girls who meet each other through being paper girls, like newspaper girls, and it's just amazing. I loved it. I loved the characters. I loved how bold they were. I loved the illustrations. The colors were beautiful. They were so bold, and look at that. Look at that. I read these all in one day. I will say that it was a little confusing at times because, you know, you have to read the whole 6 to get the full picture. You'll have a lot of questions after each one, and you have to keep reading into the next installation to have your questions answered. And still at the end, I was a little bit confused, but I really did love it. Next, I read The Boy on the Bridge by M.R. Carey. I do not own that, but I do own the first one, which is The Girl with All the Gifts. And I read this one a couple years ago and really enjoyed it, so I decided to read The Boy on the Bridge, which was written after this one, but is a prequel, so it's set before this. And because of that, since I knew where the world was going and I knew everything about the world already through The Girl with All the Gifts, I thought that The Boy on the Bridge was a little bit boring because I already knew everything. It didn't really expand upon the world. It just followed a different set of characters and kind of relayed the same themes as this one. I watched this film, The Girl with All the Gifts, before reading The Boy on the Bridge to get a refresher, and I did enjoy the film a lot. But I would recommend reading this one. And I didn't really think that reading The Boy on the Bridge was all that necessary. But yeah, I do like the writing style. I gave this one a 4 out of 5, I'm pretty sure, and I gave The Boy on the Bridge a 3.75 out of 5. Okay. Then I read the graphic novel series March by John Lewis and Nate Powell's the illustrator, and I don't remember the third author's name who helped John Lewis write it. Okay, John Lewis was in Congress in the House of Representatives, and he was one of the big six in the civil rights movement. So the three March graphic novels were about, distinctive parts of the civil rights movement and his action in them. So like the freedom rides, the sit-ins at the counters, and getting the Voting Rights Act of 1965 passed. So I really enjoyed these. I thought it showed a lot of parallels between the civil rights movement and the Black Lives Matter movement. And it's kind of sad how directly I could apply things from these graphic novels to current situations, because it seems like we're fighting for the same things as that they have already been trying to fight for so long. But it definitely gives a lot of insight into civic action and how we can make a change. And it's a great, fun way to learn that important history. So I definitely recommend that graphic novel series to everyone. And it was interesting because John Lewis was very adamant about staying a pacifist and using peaceful protest, which was, a contrast to Malcolm X, and he sometimes disagreed with other civil rights leaders. So that was interesting to see. But one thing that I wish was that we got more of his personal feelings during the events. It kind of felt like he was relaying it from a distance. It almost felt like another person could have been writing it. I gave the first one a 4, the second one a 3, and the third one a 4. And the politics in the second one and a little bit in the third one were a little confusing for me because I don't know that much about politics. And then the last book I read in January was Burn for Burn by Jenny Han and Shobin Vivian. I read The List by Shobin Vivian and enjoyed that back in high school, and I read The Summer I Turned Pretty and really enjoyed that by Jenny Han. I also read To All the Boys I've Loved Before, that trilogy by Jenny Han, more recently, and I didn't like that series that much, which was surprising for me. I'm not really sure what makes the difference when I like, this type of contemporary drama versus when I don't, like in To All the Boys I've Loved Before. But I just thought this one was super entertaining. It was definitely, you could tell it was outdated because not everything was PC. It just felt very like 2000s, like not 2010s or 2020s. And also, like, the main characters are not moral. They make some pretty immoral decisions, in my opinion, because it's a revenge plot. It's about these 3 girls who each want to take revenge on someone, and some of the things they did were messed up. But I still really enjoyed it. I got through it quickly, and I gave this a 3.8, and I started Fire with Fire, which is the second one, and I plan to finish that this month, and then read the third one, Ashes to Ashes. Ooh. These are all the books that I physically own from what I read. Ooh. Thank you for watching. Give this a thumbs up and comment down below what was your favorite book that you read in January. Bye!